Hello, Backrooms enthusiasts, and welcomes to the Backroom Podcast. Here's your host, Birch, with today's topic of conversation.
Hi, it's me, Birch. Today we are going to talk about writing, what goes into writing an article, and how you can make writing an article better, and all that. So I guess let's start by introducing ourselves. So I'm Birch. I've been on the podcast twice now. I'm a moderator for the Backrooms Wiki, do a lot of staff stuff behind the scenes and all that. And yeah, who wants to go next?
Moderator, but also soon to be admin, I hear?
True. Perhaps by the time this podcast airs, I'll be an admin. We'll see, I guess.
Ooh, fancy. Hello everyone. I'm Captain. You may know me as a stupid little idiot. Kidding. Funny, haha. I'm actually junior staff for Backrooms things. Yep. And yeah, I write. Your turn.
Oh, okay, that's a spectacular ending there. Hi, I'm Hylius.
So
And then you cut off my introduction. Great. Spectacular. I'm banning you for that. Hi there, I'm Hylius. Currently I am J staff in the same election for what is it? You go up a level? Promotion. In the same promotion election, so I might end up as mod at the same time that Birch ends up as an admin. I write for the Backrooms Wiki. I migrated over to the Backrooms Wiki from the SCP Wiki a while back after being introduced by Etoile. If you do not know who Etoile is, go and watch the first episode of this podcast, where Z is a member and talks about the same process. So I've written for the Backrooms Wiki for about 3 months now. The canon I'm most associated with is Black Knights, which is a little bit complicated, so I don't think I'm going to get right into that in the intro. But I'd be honored if you read some of my work. But otherwise, I'm not really that important.
This is a blatant lie.
I don't do that much.
You're like the single moderator that actually keeps an eye on the memes channel. You do a lot.
True.
Yeah, well, I do the dirty jobs no one else wants to. Okay, there are much more important moderators than me. Such as the ones who know how CSS works. If you manage to know how CSS works, that is being the god. Okay, right there. That's taking care of shit. Yeah, I'll do the dirty jobs no one else wants to, like making sure that memes and venting are clear of bullshit. But really, I think the most important thing that I consider myself doing is not that or my writing in and of itself. It's my greenlighting. So my greenlighting and critique. I think if I had to name one thing that I think that my presence would have an impact on the server, is probably that.
Yeah.
Yes, the greenlighters are very important to the process.
Definitely.
And I think that kind of brings us into today's topic, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. So yeah, writing.
Captain, you started something there and I missed it.
I did?
Writing.
Did I?
Yeah, you were about to say something and then I think I finished my sentence and it cut you off.
You see, I don't remember 90% of anything.
Happened.
You're a little bit too young for dementia.
Am I though? Listen,
yes,
I could just
by
be
definition, yes.
a world record. I could just be a new world record.
Speedrun.
Literally.
Speaking of any percent speedrun, I've been hearing some talk about people wanting to write things for the wiki that treat it as a game, which is that's been going on for a long time with the whole like it's a simulation and you can clip through stuff. But I heard one guy mention in Idea Critique that he'd like to have a tale about someone speed running the Backrooms.
Oh my god.
And I have a friend of mine. They work with SCP. They're in a similar vein to Etoile and I. Actually, I am no longer banned from SCP. I would like to point that out. I'm back in. I haven't done anything. I haven't probed the water, but I'm technically I'm a member of the wiki now. Anyway, I have a friend of mine. You will probably know them best as their username Communism Will Win. But to me, they're Kyomiyoi. They wrote an SCP on a sister site to the main site called the SCP Commune, where it's a town where everything repeats every day. And so people use that town's information and the fact that it's predetermined to speedrun certain actions in the town. So one of the main things that you have an issue with in typical speedrunning in like a real video game is that sometimes there's random actions you can't account for. So people really don't like speedrunning them. They like the games where either the randomness is predetermined based on a certain set of variables, or there's no randomness at all and you can just kind of mash your way through it. And so they speedrun certain activities in this town because it has the same thing going on every day.
That's actually a very like interesting concept as far as like the speedrunning thing is interesting in itself, but also like the fact that that's people's first thoughts. Just yes, I'm gonna speedrun SCP.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so when I heard like, oh, let's bring speedrunning elements into the backrooms, I'm thinking, okay, so just like in that one, you have anybody who knows anything about speedrunning knows about Mario 64 speedrunning, and they know about the backwards long jump and how that's used to bypass the staircase. And that's kind of like a native speedrunning thing to that. We took no clipping as an inspiration from a whole bunch of games because you can clip in a whole bunch of them, and there's a mode called no clipping in a bunch of them where you just enable it. But backwards long jumping is something that's native to Mario 64, and I'd really like to see what the native speedrunning technique of the backrooms is, because it wouldn't be no clipping, right? Because that whole bunch of things have no clipping. What's the intricate thing that you can do in the backrooms that is native to it that allows you to speedrun it? Also, what's the goal?
True.
This is true.
Is it
Why?
from
Yeah.
start to the end? Do we want to get to quote unquote the end?
In like
Yeah.
the really, really old days of the wiki, like when things were linear, there would be kind of like a path from like level 0 to like level 1000 or whatever. Kind of abandoned that mostly.
Yeah.
Now,
There's a
no. When
lot
you
of like
say that,
looping and shit.
when you say that, there, you said one path. Would that
Oh,
mean
true.
that now with the we're over like 200 or 300 levels now, right? Right?
Mhm.
We're over like
Yeah.
200,
Probably.
300 levels.
I
Wouldn't
think
that
so,
mean
yeah.
there'd be a whole bunch of different paths there?
Oh, yeah, true.
People just trying to find the
Yeah,
fastest one.
exactly. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna plan my route here, and I know that if I get the random chance, because you know how certain levels like you have a random chance of clipping out. If I take the random chance one that gets me to my route faster, I'll just do like 100 runs, and on one of them I'll get to it. Meanwhile, things are like you will never make it through a single level without dying. And that's one of my main issues with the backrooms as it is that there's levels that you go to and you just die. There's no way out of it, you just die. And I'm
Yeah.
not talking about like levels where it traps you. I'm talking about levels where on the surface they seem dangerous enough to just pose a problem, but this would be posing a problem to people in a narrative where things tend to work out. In real life, there's just like a 50-50 chance of like, oh, I ran into a hound and it killed me because they do that.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's
Uh,
true.
so there being so many people in the backrooms, even on a global scale, kind of sometimes it diminishes the realism of it. And I know that this is not a format where realism is something that we typically are like striving for. I know I try to do that a little bit with my work, but I'm still keeping it open for like, haha, it's fantasy. I can do kind of whatever I want. But on a scale where people are dying this fast, and there's so many people in the backrooms, like there's at least 100 people stable and living down there in various encampments. And so that's not even including people who are on like the fringe or who are just walking around. And on that level, how are they sustaining such a population like that with all the things what kill you?
Yeah.
This is true. Because there are so very many things. Entities in general are like very interesting in that like though, like, like the original Backrooms and shit, it was just like, oh, it referenced one thing, but people were able to expand on that so much as to have, like, the concept of having potentially, like, up to God knows how many entities. And, like, it does make, like, a very big, like, obstacle in, like, the context of speedrunning stuff. The idea of
'cause this isn't
speedrunning
like
Backrooms. How? There's so many
this is
variables.
this is not Half-Life. This is not Mario where you die and you're like, "Ah, great. I guess I'll have to use that 1-up that I used a couple minutes ago." No, you die. You die and you go to the
Yeah,
grave and you're there forever and your sins haunt you.
That's it. That's the meme.
Goodbye. Goodbye, you little shit.
Adios.
So that's a writing concept I saw recently that I really appreciated. I had a guy come talk to me. He wants to write and use my characters of Black Knights, which I'm fine with anybody using without my permission. I have no problem with that. You don't have to come talk to me. But I have like specifically requested, hey, if you're going to use it, come talk to me and I will help you personally with it to make sure that it's good quality. Because I want stuff that features my characters to be good quality. And he's having a bit of a problem with it because I think he's not a native English speaker, and also he's very young, which means his writing is not like spectacularly amazing. And the thing that I told him, and I think that is the main focus of what I'm going to put down for the topic of today, which is writing experience, is that the number one thing you need to do to become a better writer is to become a better reader. So, and I know that sounds kind of like, oh, yeah, of course. But really, there's a process that I used when I first joined with the SCP Wiki. And that's not to say that I joined the SCP Wiki and started writing good articles because of it. Anything that's actually currently on the wiki, I would consider not my best work. But the thing about that is, there's two ways to read an article. You can read an article and you can like enjoy the plot of it or enjoy like the style to which it was written and the images in it, and like you can enjoy it as a work. And then you read it a second time. This is what I explained to him. You read it a second time and you look at the way the person wrote it. And that's you're reading their sentence structures, you're reading their patterns. You're looking at, and I know this sounds a little bit weird, but look at how they format their articles. So look at like the background elements that they use to set up an article. I didn't get how one of these, here I'll give you an example. You can see in my Black Knights articles, I use a lot of like full screen lines, so lines that span from left to right. And that's just, there's a button for it in the wiki.editor, but I didn't know about it. So for like 3 or 4 years, I was just having these long, huge lists going on forever with like no breaks in it. And that it doesn't even change the content. Like it's the same content that I would have wrote straight from the top to the bottom, but now there's a visual break in the middle of it. Right? And the
Yeah.
visual break gives you a second to breathe between and this isn't even between paragraphs. This is between sets of paragraphs. So think about it as a paragraph break for a whole essay. And I learned that by going through, I think, Lord Stonefish's SCPs, because he used that a couple times across his, and I went, oh, okay, I'll start using it. And then my first ever unformatted work, my first ever tale, featured that in it, and it got greenlit immediately, and they were like, yeah, I like this. This is good. Put it on the wiki, and I did, and it was awesome. I mean, maybe not the content of it, but it was awesome that it got uploaded immediately. And I think that's one of those things that you miss out on, is that there's like these little tiny details that you see in someone else's work, and you immediately know, hey, I can use that, and you drop it in yours. And it's not plagiarism. This is not encouraging plagiarism. Plagiarism is bad. But it's phonemes of someone else's work. It's atoms of someone else's work that you're using to make your own. It's not, I'm building the same Lego set as you. It's, I'm using the same pieces.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like you said, the formatting of articles makes a huge difference. Like with stuff like format screws on the wiki, they're incredibly popular. Most of them are incredibly well written. And like a lot of the stuff that goes into that is the formatting. Like it doesn't have to be major CSS. Like I'll go ahead and self-promote here for a second. Like for 656, literally all I did was mess around with wiki.buttons for a second. And then I got something cool and interesting and different that hadn't been done yet. And
Is
like
that the level or the entity?
the level. Yeah. But yeah, like I just like I screwed around with some buttons for a second and I found something new to do. And I was like, hey, this really like, although it's something like stupid and minimal, it really adds a lot to this article.
Oh, like the
Because I
subscript
can
and the
get lore behind that.
superscript. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's lovely.
And like I had a lot of fun doing that. Like the content of the article itself wasn't that like, it was my first work on the wiki. It wasn't as great as like some of like maybe like newer work might be. Like you said, like people improve over time. And that's a big part of the writing process is the improving. Which is like why we
Yeah,
have stuff like the critique channels and stuff.
and I think one of the issues is people want to get to the I'm confident in my work stage. There's stepping stones to get there. And people are so busy in wanting to get there that they won't do the first stage, which is I'm gonna drop this on the wiki and it's gonna suck and I'm gonna think it's good, and then a couple of years later I'm gonna be like, oh man, that was awful. And
Oh,
that's
definitely.
a very important step. And I think a lot of people really want to skip it, and it's like, no,
It's
put
huge
something
for
up
building
there,
writing.
write something, put it on the wiki, and then it goes spectacularly. Now, you have the other side of that issue, which is people will go and see that and go, okay, so I understand that this is going to happen, so I'm just going to spitball and I'm going to turn into a monkey and I'm going to defecate in my hand and throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And that's not a good approach. They talk about that during initiatory trading at SCP. And I'm going to bring it up every time because I didn't learn how to write from Backrooms, which is it brings it in an interesting perspective, but it also makes it harder for me to convey it to you using Backrooms terms. So when I was introduced to the wiki, one of the things that they had is that there's this first article terror, where every time, even if it's been greenlit, even if it's been successful or whatever, you post your first article, and there's enough people reading new articles on the SCP Wiki that you can get your article deleted overnight. More or less. I mean, there's a 24-hour period and yada yada, but like there's enough people reading the new articles that like you can just get downvoted on the first day. And so people started mentioning this and they said, "Oh, everybody knows your first article, it's going to suck." And they're right. Your first article, more or less, and there's some prodigies, right? But more or less your first article is going to suck. It's going to happen. Don't worry about it. Try your best anyway. And that was what they came to realize is what they had to tell people, because people were writing a first article intentionally with nearly zero effort. Now, I'm not saying they wrote it to be bad on purpose, but they wrote it in a way that they just didn't give a shit. They didn't care. They didn't want to put any effort into it because they knew, hey, this is first article stuff. And it's like, no, that's also not the way, because you have to try on your first article to learn anything, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. That first article, like it's great to have your first article and think it's good for a while, and then you can revisit it and find things that you think you can improve on. Like that's like the whole purpose of kind of like, oh yeah, this is my first time doing this. It's like it's trial and error. But like you have to actually try to be able to address the errors.
Yeah, you have to have the trial period. If you're not
Definitely.
if you're not trying during the trial period, you won't. All you'll have is error, and
Literally.
error is great. We love error. Error helps us know what not to do, but we also have to have that nugget in there of quality, so we know what to follow, right? So it's like if you're in the middle of a dark room and there's no lights around you, that's great. You know where not to go, but that's not helpful unless you have like a single at least a single guiding light to follow in that dark room.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mhm.
The writing process is very, it's like it takes quite a bit of work, and like I know it can be hard for people like getting critique a lot as well, because like not necessarily that everyone is an egotistical jerk, but like sometimes it is hard to have stuff like critiqued heavily. But like you just got to know that like sometimes stuff needs it. Like with
Mhm.
first articles and stuff, like there's always going to be something that like needs a little bit of work. Even with like, like big authors, like everybody slips up sometimes.
Mhm.
One of my favorite pinned messages in the Sandbox Critique channel of the Backrooms Tech Support Discord. By the way, if you are not on the Backrooms Tech Support Discord, join it. I do not care if you're on the forums. I do not use the forums. I'm going to try to use the forums more in the future, but I recently realized, it was brought to my attention by Birch, I think that was you, who told me there's a whole Backrooms forum on the wiki that I just have never used, and people try to get greenlight there. It's like, if you want to get greenlight faster, go through the greenlight process on the Discord. Anyway,
Mhm.
one of my favorite pinned messages in Sandbox Critique, other than "Guys, please, Nostalgia Gaius is force feeding me a Whopper, oh my god," is the point of
God
crit
damn it.
is to understand and fix the problems with your article, not tell people why they're wrong for pointing out the article's problems. And that's an
Yeah.
eToil exclusive pin. Uh, and I think that's one of the main issues with the first brand of people, not the second brand. The second brand are the low effort people. And I don't want to put people in categories. So I'm not saying like everything you do is low effort if you're a person who like doesn't go hard on your first article. That's fine. But the other category of people is people who think they're right regardless of like how other people interpret their article, because they enjoy their own work that much. And that's awesome. I love my work, right? I have on occasion reread Black Knights for inspiration for future Black Knight stuff, just to see like what plot lines I might have left in there, and if I was a reader, what I would have liked. But to like your work enough that you won't listen to other people criticizing it, that's you're
Oh
bordering
yeah.
on
Mhm.
narcissism in writing. So
Yeah. We have had problems with that.
that specific one, and I'm gonna call her out because she's done a lot better job at doing better about this recently. So that if you're ever having a problem with this, go talk to her, because she knows, she's been there, she's dealt with it. Ray, 1,000 dumplings. We love her to death. I miss her. She's currently not on the wiki server right now, so I haven't heard from her in a while. But Ray, she was writing something one time, and we went on for like half an hour with her about it, and eventually she came around. But the start of it was, she was writing something, and there was a concept in her work that she just assumed the reader would understand because she's also the reader of her work, right? And so she reads it and she completely understands it, and then she submitted it for crit, and one of us goes, "Hey, how does the game master do XYZ?" She's like, "Oh, because the game master can just I think it was astral project between levels," and everybody in chat went, "What the fuck? Why would anybody
Yeah.
Oh,
expect that the game master could astral project between levels?" And so that's one of the things about it is you have to be your own critic sometimes. You have to suspend your own disbelief for your own article and go, "Okay, so I'm reading this as a I'm reading this as a fresh reader who's never been exposed to my work at all before," and you have to kind of go, "Huh, Birch, you are a longtime Backrooms writer. You came in a lot earlier than me. What tips can you give us from veterans' perspectives?"
Sure. Yeah. So I think definitely, of course, like as it's, and we've kind of talked about, so practice. Practice is very important. Like if I look at my early articles, the quality is much lower than like what I've been doing more recently. And so yeah, that's a pretty like clear one. I think another one would be like sometimes if you have an idea and it's not working, you can just like put it on a shelf for a little bit, and then like at a later date maybe you can like come back and like have a fresh eyes to it and like make it work that time. And sometimes the ideas just like won't work, and that's fine too. Just like keep, I guess, keep like bouncing off things off the wall until you can find something that like you can sink your teeth into and like write a good story about, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's like a big thing with me. Like when I like lose like interest in like ideas that I have like a little scrap area in my sandbox where I'll just keep them to like go through them every now and then, like once a month at least, to see if there's anything I can do with them. And sometimes I will reuse stuff. But like yeah, it is very good to have like just like take looks at things for a while, and sometimes something will click.
Mhm.
I'm gonna do a big no-no here. I'm gonna mention canon for a second.
Oh
And
God. Oh
if you're
God.
around if you're around us at all, if you're not just a listener to the Backrooms podcast, which I wonder, is there people who just listen to the podcast and of course they're probably reading the wiki or they've been referred to from a TikTok video, but is there anybody who listens to the podcast who just isn't in the Discord server? That would be
I don't
weird.
know, yeah.
That would be weird.
If you're around the Discord server enough, you know that canon is something that gets thrown around a lot. And I think canon is the single barrier for an idea. There's not a single bad idea that exists that isn't a bad idea because it conflicts with canon. If you have an idea and it works and nothing else blocks it with how canon works, and I know canon's tenuous, but there is truly technically a real canon that most people follow. Unless it's blocked by that, your idea is fine. You just have to find a particular way to implement it. And that's another thing that I carried over from the other wiki, is that there's not a single idea in the universe that you can't pull off given the right style of writing and the right interpretation of it and the right conveyance of it. So,
Mhm.
I mean,
True.
like, shelve that shit. Just put it away. All right. You don't have to deal with it. Write something else. Get a little interstitial there. And I know that it's like, I just came off of a good idea that I don't know how to make. How am I going to make a new good idea that's better than that one? Right? Do your best. If
Mhm.
you can pull it off, it's amazing. But if you get that interstitial of writing in there, then your mind has been geared to writing that new thing. And when you come back to the first one, you literally have a new perspective on it. Because if you keep grinding the same I can't do this into the ground for a while, it's just going to get worse. If you break it up, all right, you keep it separate, you try something new, uh, it doesn't have an issue. And I think a lot of the helpful aspects of that is that for that interstitial work, go ask someone if, and I mean like an established member of the wiki, go ask someone if there's something of theirs that you'd like to write for them, right? So
Yeah.
I've had a couple people come up to me and be like, "Hey, I want to write in Black Knights." Captain's one of them, and that makes my day if someone goes up to me and does that. And I specifically I put something out in the author channel the other day, and I was like, "Hey, does anybody have a character that they don't really use anymore that I can kill because I really need a character?" And Draven, who is username Rat Scraps on there, was like, "Yeah, I have a character. I really want you to use them." And so it's like anytime that comes up, the person will always appreciate it for you, and you also have a brand new concept that you don't have to invent on your own, that you can just knock out. And it's like, yeah, I didn't
Mhm.
have to invent anything of my own.
Oh, definitely. That's like a big part of a lot of stuff, is like interaction with other authors and their content. Like, um, shit, let me think. Cause like I know I have like a lot of stuff that I've written for other people. I just don't remember what I've published or not. Um,
Sure.
but like, yeah, like writing other people's stuff is so fun.
Oh my god, I just realized I've been swearing this whole time.
Happens. It's fine.
Okay, it's gonna end up censored?
Um, we don't censor it, but
Oh,
it'll be fine.
okay, good.
It'll be fine. But yeah,
Fun.
so
Funny, haha.
an example for me for the like utilizing other ideas. So one thing that I've kind of explored a little bit is, so I noticed that there was like the idea of like the leaders of the Meg, of the like overseers A, B, and C, and no one had really like done too much with them. So I've kind of like
Ooh, yeah.
made a couple of stories where I've like given them like actual characters, and they're like not, I don't think canon to like, because I know Stretch, who like invented them, has his own like specific idea of like how they should go out, but like they're big enough characters. I think it's like fine for like there to be a little bit difference like between stories, because like no canon and all that. And so yeah, that's just an example for me.
Oh yeah, that's especially fun is like seeing other people's interpretations of your own characters or someone else's characters, because they can be so like wildly different. Like I personally interpreted a certain character as just like a scrawny little like kid that has like a lot of energy, but now due to like seeing other people's interpretations of this character, I've turned them into someone that literally owns an alligator, like just because people can like,
You talking about the girl from Florida?
yes, yes,
Thank you. Thank you.
she's my favorite. I can't wait to write an article for her. But yeah, like bouncing is with other people, like of course established authors, even like your own friends, like just brainstorming these kinds of ideas, like you can go so like absolutely batshit with them, and it can
Oh my
turn out
God.
so well.
I'm gonna mark myself with this one. There's a mark of shame that we'll be planning on myself for this. I had a period between formal writing where I was working on my own. This was after SCP but before Backrooms. There was a period where I was writing JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan fiction. Okay.
You shared one of them with
Uh
me.
I shared one of them with you. I'm sure that you appreciated it because you're a fan. But
Oh,
during that
definitely.
time, I mean, there's small communities for it, but nobody really talks about writing that kind of thing. I'm in every server that exists that you can have that for, and they're all dead. Nobody talks there. So what did I do? I bounced it off my friends. I have a couple friends. In fact, after this podcast ends, I am going to go hang out with them because I love them. They're my best friends. Mwah, love you guys. Um, I bounced ideas off them in real life. And so they're not super fans of JoJo's, but they know the premise. And you can do the same thing with the Backrooms. So like explain the premise of the Backrooms, and they'll go, "Oh, okay, I understand the Backrooms." Because the Backrooms, as they are, a pretty simple concept. Uh-oh, I fell out of reality. Now I'm behind reality, and weird shit happens there. They're like, okay, and then you bounce your idea off them. And because they're new and they're fresh, and this is why I'm explaining this about friends, is because the first thing you worry about with friends is, are they even going to get the concept? They don't need to. The reason why friends are great for that is because they don't get the concept and they ask the questions that you would, again, like I mentioned earlier with Ray, they ask those questions that you would never ask about your own work because they just are clear as day to you. That's what the friends are great for, because the friends, more than just backroom stuff, is more than just backrooms authors where they don't know your work. It's they also don't know the subject matter of your work. So you get to clarify great awesome things to them. And then you realize that that's not implicit in your work, and you add it back in so that your readers are just brought into a world where things have been established and things make sense because you already had to explain that to someone.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like that's definitely a huge part. Like generally just like even talking about your ideas in general before putting them on paper is a wildly important step in writing, because you have to explain certain things, because sometimes people won't understand, and then that's like in like movies and books and stuff, that's considered like a plot hole. Like I think I haven't done
Yeah,
any
you know, you're
actual
right.
work. But yeah, like making sure you've covered that stuff up is incredibly important when building a universe like the Backrooms. Like it's an incredibly like at the same time as it is simple, like there's so much you can do to spin off of it. Like people have done with the Entity ones, where they're just like so like intricate, and like it comes back to the thing of like the concept itself is simple, but like you can expand on it in so many ways. which is what people
Mhm.
like canon writers and stuff have done.
Yeah, it's a real shame that they're kind of putting the canons in a backdoor by pushing them to their own servers off the main server, because I really think the canons are one of the things that make collaborative writing projects really interesting, because
Mhm.
anybody can do the formatted writing. Anybody can go out and go, hey, here's a template. I'm going to fill it in with my own work. Anybody can do that. It's the real impressive stuff is the stuff that breaks out of it. And I'm not talking about literal format screws. I'm talking about stuff that is based on a status quo that isn't even established in the original work. That is some of my favorite stuff. Like for example, in this one, Industrialization. I have not read a lot of Industrialization, but the fact that people are it really screams to, I think, human ingenuity is what they're going for, where even in a place of unburdened horrors, humanity is just like, yeah, let's set up a couple factories. Yeah, I think I can make money off of this, right?
Yeah.
That's such a testament to human perseverance, that even in this huge fucking whacked out world, that this kind of stuff can still happen. And I think that they get that now, but that's based on an entire canon that has nothing to do with the Backrooms in specific. You could apply Industrialization to any other fictional world. You just have to change the characters out, and the premise is
Oh,
there. But
definitely.
like the status quo as it is of the Backrooms fundamentally changes once you enter that canon. If you go
Mhm.
into, I think they're calling it the Cygnus Archives canon. I'm not sure. It's still in development. I believe the development for it started literally yesterday, but they now have a whole bunch of articles up. The people who work with Blanche, the White Queen, um,
Mhm.
they have a fundamental change of the status quo based on the fact that there's a future where the Backrooms are just an innate part of like typical reality, and people jump between them, and also time travel, and it just is thrust upon you. And again, this is set delicately on top of the Backrooms, but it's not
Mhm.
built on it, right? It's its own
Yeah.
thing, right? There's no roots in the Backrooms. You could take it off and you could put it on almost anything, but it's a fundamental change to the status quo that I think really is the most interesting part of a constrained writing website. It's when you take that constrained writing and you don't break it, right? Nobody's breaking the constrained writing, nobody's breaking the rules of the Backrooms, but you bend it so hard that it's like taking the Backrooms, which is this I-beam, this titanium bar, and you bend it into your metal sculpture.
Mhm.
But yeah, like that's been one of my favorite parts of writing for the Backrooms, because before this, and yes, I will admit, I wrote like exclusively fan fiction. I had little to no writing experience pre-Backrooms, except for in my English classes and back when I used to write fan fiction for Hamilton the musical. Um, but like that's one of the best parts of writing for the Backrooms, is because it's so like it's literally it's out of reality. You can do almost anything. Not like almost anything. You can do pretty much anything with this site. You can go
Mhm.
absolutely all over the place with this, and you can still like make it fit. Like you can still make it a part of the Backrooms, because like not like there are no rules, but with the Backrooms, because of like the implied things aren't normal here, so much can happen. So many people can build off of that in so many kinds of different ways. And it's just really amazing to see and to be a part of.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Definitely,
yeah.
yeah.
And you can build off someone else's work. People can build off of your work. Um, but I think the one thing that I'd really like to get out there, especially before this is over, because I think the podcast is stretching out to its conclusion soon, um, is that collaborative thing doesn't have to be staged. It doesn't have to be linear. You can do a collaborative work at the same time as someone else. And I'm going to start with saying, hey, write a work alongside someone also writing a work so that they kind of work together. But what I'm building
Mhm.
to is one of the things that makes it easiest to get into a website like this is for your first article, collaborate on one single article with a more experienced author. So like find someone, ask if they'd be interested in collaborating on something, and then if they go, yeah, what's up? Pose your idea, work with them on writing it. They make sandbox pages for it. If you don't know how sandboxes work, please start using a sandbox. I got a submission earlier from someone using Google Drive, which is amazing for in the moment collaborative work. But if you want your thing formatted, you can go into a sandbox and you can add collaborative to the beginning of your sandbox title, and it will allow other people to edit your sandbox too. And when you do that, that makes it so much easier because the burden of making a good article is passed from you to your more experienced partner. So they are the ones whose like reputation really is on the line. You're a newcomer. So whatever you add is bonus to their article, more or less. You can pose your own idea, you can write the whole damn thing. And as long as you have someone working right alongside you, all the burden is on them to make sure that it's good. And so that takes that initial pressure of, oh my God, I got to write a good article off, because that's your thing. And then you have your experience. You've just written an article. You at the very minimum, you help someone else write that article. And so the burden of your first time is lifted off your shoulders in the same way that they are burdened with making sure that article works.
On that note, please God, somebody collaborate with my characters.
Yeah, and collaboration takes a whole bunch of stages. So the collaboration might mean working on the same article with someone. Collaboration might mean doing two concurrent articles that are related in some format. Like I know I'm working with Snom Stan. That's their username on Discord, Snom Stan. I'm working with them on featuring sharing characters. So they have a character that they call Blanche. She lives in level 906, and Blanche is an archivist, but not an archivist for the Meg. She's an extra-dimensional archivist. And so I took Blanche, and for a very small portion of my story, I put Blanche in as a way for a character to get information, right? Just progress the plot. Tiny little detail. They're there for half a tale, and they will almost certainly never return unless I really bring them back for something that's important. In the same vein, the story that they're telling that features Blanche, there's a Black Knight that showed up in the middle of it. That's wacky. What's going to happen next? The Black Knight stabs him, but it's only there for a fraction of a second. And I think that's the point, is that you get the cross links. So anybody who enjoys my Black Knight articles will read that. We'll see Blanche, and we'll see that Blanche is literally linked in my article. Go, hey, that's nifty. I'll click on this one. Now you have a new fan of your own articles. Now you have a new person who's going to your articles and enjoying your thing. And even if you're a new writer, now you have that in. I think a lot of the writing of this this website gets predicated on it's closing in on popularity. So people are like, oh, that's an eToil article. I gotta read that because eToil wrote it, right? Or Elias posted a new article. I gotta go read the Elias article because Elias does a whole bunch of good work. And I think that's one of the things that I'd really prefer if we kept separate from SCP, because you get characters like, and I'm gonna call you out by name. Love you, buddy. Also hate you. You know how this works. DJ Cactus is an author for the SCP Wiki. Still might be on burnout. I don't know. But DJ Cactus has written everything on the website, and everybody also loves DJ Cactus. So you have this feedback loop of DJ Cactus posts something. Everybody who liked his previous works goes to his works, upvotes it. New people find DJ Cactus and go, hey, I love DJ Cactus. DJ Cactus uploads again, and those new people go and like that new DJ Cactus article. So the more cross-linking you can get, if you're not an established author, the more cross-link you can get, where you share a character and they share a character with you, and you have some cross-links, that's great promotion for your work. Okay, so if you want to get, if upvotes are important to you, which they shouldn't be, what should be important is that they rate your article at all. I value negative votes just as importantly as positive ones, because it tells you what people's opinion of your work is and how you can make it better usually. But I think that's really the important thing, is cross-linking on your earlier work, so you get your work out to people, because you get one opportunity for greenlighting, right? So you're never going to get greenlight by more than one person unless you're pretty influential and you're asking them like outright. I've had a couple of people who are also greenlighters come to me, and we work on each other in the backgrounds, because I can have faith that I know that they're going to have good work, so I don't have to put that much effort into critique. But if you're a new member starting out, it can be hard to get critique, because people, especially if you do a really long article on your first try, which is not to say don't do a long article. That's fine. If you do a long article on your first try, people are gonna, I mean, if it's your first time submitting, people are gonna have a little bit of they're not gonna be as invested in your work. They're not gonna want to go straight into greenlighting. We have a long queue for greenlighting, so people are taking the ones, or at least this is how I do it, and I don't know if this is preferential treatment or whatever, but I read the articles that I think are going to be interesting before the articles that I don't, and so can have some issues with that. And so you're only going to get, this all amounts to, you're only going to get one green light. You're only going to get one guy going and critiquing your article before you put it out. But once you put out that article, once you expose that to the universe, that's when you're going to get, theoretically, more critique. And that's not to say put out your thing and hope for critique to make your thing better. You're wanting those tips from people for improving future works. And so the more people that you expose to your own work, okay, the more networking you do, the more links you have from yours to other people, the more promotion you do, the more people are going to look at it and give you advice. They're going to tell you what they like, they're going to tell you what they don't like, and that's how you get feedback, more or less. I think is the real deal. That's not to say skip critique. Critique is important, but that's your feedback. That's, you listen to your quote unquote fans and they tell you what they like.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, getting feedback on like already posted articles, be it like negative or like good, like it's very, very important to like take into, like, factor in like other people's thoughts, because you're not, like, you are writing for yourself, you're writing what like you want to write, but like one of my like favorite things is seeing the influence that my articles have on other people, like how people feel after my articles. Like, it's a very, very big part. Like, hearing other people's opinions is a huge, huge part, like in multiple steps of writing.
And I mean, you can write for yourself. Oh yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. Remember what you were going to say though. You can write for yourself. That's not a problem. I mentioned the narcissistic writing earlier, and I think that ties into it. And I will fully admit, most of the time I'm writing for myself because I think what I'm writing is cool. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're posting it online. And if you're really writing it for yourself, you don't have to post it, right? You can keep that locked away in a sandbox and you can enjoy it for your own right. But if you're posting it for other people. And those opinions are the ones that matter. You can enjoy your own work to the end of the earth. Other people can enjoy your work to the end of the earth. But it's the people who are reading it on the site that you posted it that matter, more or less. So it doesn't matter if they have one green bar on their Wikidot profile. If they comment on your article, it's because they thought it was important enough to comment and leave a message there. So it again, like, it doesn't matter who's commenting. Everybody's opinion should be valued more or less equally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're getting closer to like the 1 hour mark. So do you want to like wrap it up?
Yeah. Is there any closing words?
Personally, yes. I thought I would share my writing experience in detail. Those of you that use Discord should know it by now. I sit in front of my computer for around 3 hours. I black out. I find things.
Hello?
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 Did Discord die?
No, I can hear you.
God damn it. Did it not register anything that I just said?
Talking. You just stopped talking after
said
you
many
said you
words.
blacked out. You blacked out in real life during discussing blacking out. Oh my god.
Oh my god. Oh god, I gotta go check my wiki.sandbox now. What did I write?
You wrote an entire Black Knight's work.
Holy shit. But yeah, that's all I have to say. You two?
Yeah, practice writing, do reading, and listen to your crit, and yeah, that's the basics.
Yeah, if there's one way to condense what we've talked about today, it's working with other people. And I have discussed in numerous ways today that you can work with other people. But I think less than any one particular way, it's important to factor that in as much as you can. So there's no one particular instance of anything I've said today that is the number one kicker. You want to do this, you want to do that. It's you want to do as much of it as you can. You want to get as much crit as you can beforehand. You want to do as much cross-linking as you can. You want to try to get that collaborative article working. It's not just one thing or the other. You just, if you're going to work on a collaborative writing site, and that's what this is called, the Backrooms Wiki is a collaborative fiction project. You gotta factor in the collaborative, right? And that's not just everybody uploads their own thing and none of them has to deal with each other. It's collaborative for a reason. Work with people. Your first article doesn't have to be iterative. You can just expand on something else that someone else has done. It's the whole point of working together. So I think that's your number one writing tip is work with other people.
Pop off.
Right. I think that's a wrap.
I think I will, in fact, pop off.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's a wrap. Next week, do we want to give them a little bit of a tease on what we're thinking about doing next week?
I mean, I don't know what I'm doing next week, so.
Oh, I thought we were thinking about doing some reading.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah,
were
I
going to
forgot
go over
about
some
that.
levels, do some rudimentary voice acting,
Whoa.
and see what we could get done.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for listening to the Backrooms Podcast. I've been Hylius.
I've been Birch.
I'm pretty sure I'm captain.
Yeah, we're not so clear on that. And have a wonderful day.
Goodbye.